I saw a hand on the WSOP main event final table that made me suspicious. It was this hand with pocket sixes against pocket aces, pretty standard everything until the river, and then GTO Wizard recommends to check back pocket sixes 100% of the time. And when I saw this, it felt pretty wrong to me, so I decided to run it, and we ran it multiple times to make sure that the results are accurate. So let's dive into and see who is right and whether GTO Wizard is actually pretty inaccurate here. So let's have a look into our ICM PostFlop section that we're currently building, that you can also join the Champions tier and get access. And we already have lots of different boards that you can look into for different stages of the tournament with the ICM PostFlop impact. And in the strategy breakdown, we have specific spots that I played where you get access to these spots with video content and a proper ICM PostFlop solve. So here's the hand, the queen deuce 3 from the final table. You always get 2 spots here, pre-flop and post-flop, and on the bottom here, similar spot with different boards. If you're curious, all right, how does it work on 853? Because it's always good to compare boards with other boards as well. So let's have a look at the pre-flop range, and as you can see, small blind is actually playing a very aggressive strategy, which I was a bit surprised. I expected more like 6-7% 3-bet because they're pretty deep, and that means if you have something like ace queen off, you just want to flat. And you also see that there's no real short stack, so that's the reason why we want to be more aggressive. I think if we have 1 or 2 short stacks here with maybe 5, 6, 7 big blinds, strategies become a little bit more passive. But again, just because you're mid stack doesn't mean you're going to be playing the same strategy every single time. In fact, if you're mid stack versus mid stack and there's no immediate short stack, you gotta be slightly more aggressive against each other. And for the button, he's going to play a very interesting strategy where he is implementing jams, which I feel very confident he's not going to have if we also have 1, 2, or maybe 3 short stacks with like 8, 10, 12 big blinds and either call or non-all in 4-bet. But as you can see, if there's no immediate short stack, punting becomes a little bit more attractive. But on a big final table like this, I doubt anyone is ever going to jam. I think the only hand that might jam from time to time is ace king off, but I think here, even with ace king, people might play it safe. So yeah, this is just an orientation. That's why I always encourage you guys, think for yourself. This is just the basis of what GTO wants us to do, which is the optimum in theory wonderland, but we want to play real poker, guys. And that's why we need to consider that our opponent on the button here is going to have more pocket pairs post flop and going to have more suited aces. I think here this 4-betting with the brown hands seems to be pretty common. And let's have a look into PostFlop. Hey YouTube, a $500 webinar at no cost for you. It's going to be a live webinar. I'm going to be teaching you ICM PostFlop and Multiway, some sick exploits that you can do to increase your win rate. It's going to be live. You can ask your questions. The seats are going to be limited. If you're too late, you're not going to get a seat. We're going to have a cap, and our webinars are always full. So make sure to sign up in time. You can reserve your seat right now. So head over to research.com or check the description where we're going to put the link, and then I see you there. Now let's go back to PostFlop. So we always have videos attached where I go through the simulation, so you're not left alone. And I also share further exploits that you need to take into consideration, which is really helpful because I see a lot of you guys really struggling on properly analyzing and interpreting and drawing conclusions with these GTO inputs, and you just do things that are gonna harm your win rate. So on the right side, we can navigate the nodes. So basically this is where, as you have seen it with solvers, but it's a lot more simpler and straightforward. Or you just hit the trainer and you practice this spot post flop, right? You can see the strategies. You can navigate the nodes and see, all right, what is villain supposed to do against the check? What is this button strategy with stabbing? And then you can click your way through here as well, which is also really, really good. Especially you can fire and practice lots of different hands and runouts and then play turns, etc. You get the point. Now, for this specific spot, we want to look into the river spot, right? So we start with us betting, and this is our betting strategy. Remember, this was our 3-bet strategy. Ace-8 off, 3-betting like 20% of the time. If the frequencies become so little, and you see, remember, 5s, 4s, sixes, sevens, these hands were like very little 3-bets. And if you want to see, okay, what if you end up having pocket 5s as a 3-bet here? The 5% of the time, you're supposed to c-bet it 50% of the times. Now, button is going to call against that. What is really interesting that a hand like pocket 7s without a spade actually starts folding. It's basically neutral in EV. And if you have something like king jack, it's almost as good as pocket 7s if like king jack and diamonds or clubs, which, yeah, I probably would just fold, to be honest. But you block king queen, you block something like pocket kings, you block some ace king combos with the ace and spades, and pocket 7s, you block a lot of pure bluffs like a king 7 or an ace 7, and you don't block any value. And so that's, but you still have a pair, right? That's why it makes a bit of EV compared to king jack. But king jack having the king makes a bit more EV, and that's where it's almost identical, which I think it's just fine here to fold your king 10 without a spade. Let's say if you decided to call king jack off, okay, you continue with the jack or king and spades, but you fold everything else. Now on the turn, it goes check, check. And on the river, we see that now we have a fourth spade there, right? So as we can see here, one small blind checks, and GTO Wizard, remember, recommended 100% check with pocket 6s. And here's what I learned. And this is how I like to use GTO to my advantage, heuristics. And what I've seen a lot of different boards is whenever we're on a monotone runout, it really likes to bluff these bottom pocket pairs. And in this spot of Daniel, I remember, man, like if you probably pocket 4s, pocket 5s are very high frequent bluffs. And I would have expected that it would show, let's say 20% bet, 80% check. And 100% check just seemed very wrong to me. Let's have a look on the river spot. And what you need to understand here, that in a lot of these spots, the aggressor usually wants to be the one who is quite aggressive. Remember that small blind is going to be sitting on aces and kings without a spade very often. And many of these spade combos, let's say if small blind has aces or kings with one spade, you want to value bet, because your opponent, if he's on pocket 7s with one spade, is just going to check it back. So by the time we're on the river, we're going to have some slow played flushes, right? There's also the question, is this realistic? But that's not really the point. I can tell you that also probably here on the button, it's mostly going to be overbluffed, because I think that, and maybe Daniel understood it in this spot. I'm not saying his check is terrible. It's just purely if the GTO recommendation is correct here. I think Daniel might understand very well that he's probably going to be betting a lot of flushes, and he's getting to the river with pocket 4s, pocket 5s, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, like all of these hands without a spade, and it's very easy to overbluff. So I actually like his check back, because Santiago might just be like, fuck it, you know, like what are you repping? And maybe it's a good spot to go thinner for value with pocket 9. So I can tell you that this spot, to play this spot profitably, you definitely want to play it completely different the way the solver wants to play, because we have seen from pre-flop to flop, the range is going to look different. So by the time you arrive on the river, using your own fucking brain, ideally it's going to make you more money than what the solver wants you to do, because basically the river output is not going to be helpful for us at all. Again, just an orientation, but there's so much more to do. And if it's even accurate, because we see here, you might say, well, Ben, 6 is a check. Well, the thing is that we're gonna arrive on the river with so few combos of pocket 6s. Remember, some of these pocket pairs, according to GTO, are supposed to jam pre-flop. Then perhaps once the turn checks, you're supposed to stab it on the turn in position for protection. So by the time you are on the river in this node with 5, 6, 7s, you're not gonna have that many combos. And you also see that there's a decent amount of nut flushes in your range that you're supposed to slow play on the turn. We river some pocket 8s combos as a full house. If it's checked to us, you see here, and that's the question, that pocket 6s, with these few combos we get to the river, if it does not have a spade, it wants to bet. It never wants to check. Maybe 1% of the time. We check back 6 and spades, we have showdown value, and we basically bluff 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s. Again, it might look like a lot, but you're not going to have that many combos. It's maybe one combo of pocket fours or one combo of pocket sevens that you arrive to the river like this in theory. Again, this is where Daniel also understands, okay, wait a minute, I will not jam pocket sixes pre-flop. So instead of having one combo of pocket six without a spade, I will have 3 or 4 combos. So I have to be a bit more mindful. And this is what you need to understand, that here the button, Daniel is going to have more flushes. It really depends on how Daniel plays. But here, the thing is, all of this, it's so confusing to you. When you study GTO, this is a good tip I can give to you, is you want to have heuristics. Have one main takeaway, which is, okay, if we play the spot and I get to the river here with the bottom pocket pairs and I don't have the spades, usually you can bluff them. Now the next layer is, are my opponents going to fold? If you say no, you don't need to bluff. That's it. This is how you truly crush. And these are the right questions you're asking yourself. And this is the knowledge, the heuristics and tips I share in those videos that come with the post-flop section, with our multi-way trainer, a lot of the spots where you can practice and drill these spots. So you truly understand GTO and you truly understand how to apply it. So now the question is, why does GTO Wizard recommend pocket sixes to be checked 100% of the times? Again, maybe they ran it with a different preflop sim, but here's my suspicion. They run it within 30-60 minutes. When we run ICM preflop sims, only for preflop, it takes us more than a day. Our server is non-stop running and feeding our program with new solves, and it takes at least a day to get very accurate results for your preflop sims. Now, maybe they have access to some servers where it goes faster, okay, but I doubt that during a final table they can run it so accurately, especially if you consider post-flop. That is another layer that also takes some hours or maybe even a day. So as you can see here, we have been running this with HRC and Pyro Solver to really make sure we have a proper output. And we see here pocket fours, pocket fives, pocket sixes are essentially betting every single time, or you're supposed to bluff it either with a big sizing or small sizing. Both are completely fine, but there's no checking with those hands. So this is where I'm really asking myself, how accurate are these sims? I doubt they can run it accurately, which I find extremely disappointing, because this gives the false impression. It's a cool feature, but I don't think it's, if I'm right, maybe our sims are wrong, which I highly doubt, because we have been running them to a very good accuracy. Let me know in the comments what you think. Again, it's also a cool spot to improve your ICM post-flop game. And keep in mind that you always want to use your brain, your logic, the way people really play. Maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comments, and then see you guys.